This is Python's Paradise. This is your host, Greg Gilbert, aka the Python Hyena, straight out of Fredericton, New Brunswick, Canada. And folks, here we are on September the 27th, 2023.
It's crazy, huh?
It is crazy. I'm 51 years old, folks, this year, and we're gonna go back to when I was 6 years old. Because you see, my folks used to take my brothers and I to the drive-in theater. And I bring that up because the guest I got on the show today is in a film that we saw at the drive-in. And I kind of recognize him from that film because in that film he didn't have any hair either.
No, I did.
Okay, maybe a little peach fuzz.
No, I had the jet black hair. Lift in the truck.
Okay, they had the magic marker out, folks. Folks, I have on the guy who played Baby Superman in the original 1978 Superman. I would have been 6 when that came out. Folks, I welcome Aaron.
Can you do it?
Can I do it?
Smolinski. There you
Smolinski. I apologize. I've never seen that last name before. Where does
okay.
that
It's
come from?
It's Polish.
It's Polish. So Superman is Polish, is he?
He is, yeah, yeah. Clark Kent is just a disguise name.
So
It's
Okay. We're gonna make up a brand new origin story here on this interview. Superman
Yeah,
is
Clark
now
Kent.
officially.
Clark Kent's just a generic. If it was Aaron Smolinski working at the Daily Planet, it would be a little bit. People would recognize that last name. So Clark Kent kind of flies under the radar, so to speak. No pun intended.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because it was uh B. Waters, who of course I know is Bromwell here, connected me with you. Now I've known her because she lives here in Fredericton where I do. I've known her for oh gee, I'd say we're going close on 20 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, 20, 15 anyway, 15, 20. I've known her for a long time. I got her CD here somewhere, packed away in one of the boxes. But how do you know her?
We were attached to an independent film we were going to do called Astronomy Walkers.
Okay.
That never ended up going. So that's how we kind of got connected.
Yeah, because I thought it was interesting because I had her on this year because nobody knows where New Brunswick, Canada is. It's like this part of the world nobody's familiar with. And when she told me that I can connect you with the guy who is Superman as a baby and Superman, I was like, you can do that? How do you? And yeah, so it was wonderful talking to her last month because it's been a while. I see her periodically, but but I remember when I first met her it was through the New Brunswick Film Co-op here. I think it was, I'd say the mid 2000s in there, somewhere in there. I met her, so I don't know, 708 somewhere in there.
Right.
I'd met her in there somewhere. So I'd say a good 15 years at least I've known her. So
Got it. Well,
yeah.
I'm glad she's put us in touch for this interview.
Have you listened to her music before?
I have not, no.
I recommend you do. She's got a wonderful song called Eden, which was fantastic. And um, yeah, she's got a great, I'd say soft rock or I don't know if it's a punk rock, but soft rock
Perfect.
CD. Yeah,
I'll have to give it a listen.
yeah, she's terrific. So a little shout out to her connecting us here. So anyway, I was just blown away when she made this connection. So I was like, wow, because we don't have drive-ins here anymore, you know, and
We all make our own now on the garages or the sides of the house.
yeah, yeah. But when it comes to Superman, I still think those first two Superman movies are the best ones. Superman 1 and Superman 2, you know?
The Donner cut, yeah.
Oh yeah. Yep. And I had Jack O'Halloran on here talking about that, and I'll always remember Terrence Stamp getting whipped up into the Coca-Cola sign in Superman 2. That was a great moment, you know. But anyway, I was gonna ask, you know, this is normally what I ask my guest is how did you get the part? But I guess really you didn't have much of a choice.
No, that's not true at all.
Oh, really? Okay.
So I played the kid that lifted the truck,
Mm-hmm.
right? And there was a big radio announcement. I'm from Calgary, Alberta. And so there was a big radio announcement that they were doing this huge casting call for this major movie. So I went down with my mom and my brother, who's 3 years older than me. He was 6 at the time. And I just happened to look like Christopher Reeve did when he was 3. And my brother happened to look like him when he was 6. So that's kind of how I got the part. They hired 3 of us, 3 3-year-olds, right? Because you're 3, they don't know who's going to work and who's not. Um, and I was actually number 2. Number 1 didn't really work out. Dick took a liking to me, and I was easy to work with, and so that's how that part came about.
Oh, wow. See, I don't remember much about my life at 3 years old, you know.
Yeah,
But
I remember people always ask me all the time, "Do you remember, being on set?" And I do. I remember a
oh,
lot of it.
wow.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
such a big moment. But yeah, I remember, flashes of stuff like that. Part of it's what my parents told me as well. But you know,
Oh,
uh,
phenomenal.
yeah.
I remember, like, I was born in 1972. I can remember some stuff from the 70s, but at 3 years old, I don't think I can recall much at 3 years old. But wow, okay, you get a better memory than me, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So all these years, like a Superman celebrating its 45th anniversary, that first film. And of course, that came out the year after Star Wars. Star Wars opened up the door to so many things, you know, and a lot of stuff were able to get made after that. And Superman, of course, was one of those projects that came afterwards. And I remember it very fondly. Sometimes I wish I could turn back time, spin around the
Yeah.
earth, and you
Tell me
know,
about it.
yeah, we've all been there. But what is I know this might sound like a question you may get a lot, but I'm going to ask it because you know uh, you're not that you're around my age, and I gotta say I wasn't doing much at that age. You were in Superman. How's it feel to you 45 years later, knowing that you're part of that film?
It's pretty special. Obviously at 3, I had no idea what Superman was, right? But I've been very fortunate to do a number of conventions with Jack and Sarah and all that, and meeting the fans and seeing what this film means to them. It's a pretty special thing. Like a lot, like you said, the parents. A lot of that. It was the first movie their dad took them to, and they bonded, with it, or their parents, or anything like that. So and it really set off the superhero genre.
Hmm.
Um, and I think what's most honorable about it is what Superman stands for, right? Yeah, it's about the superhero, but it's more than that. It's about humility and being a good person and doing right. Using the powers you have for good instead of for wrong. And it's a really weird phenomenon that every one of the cast members, everyone, at least that I know of, are really down to earth, good, nice, kind people. You know, at these conventions, we've done some reunions where there's been me and Jack and Sarah and Mark McClure and Mark Shamer, who played Nuclear Man. And you look at all the other celebrities that are there at these conventions, and it's literally just like, go, sign, thank you, sign, thank you. And we have these big lines, and not so much that it's just because there's a big line full of people, it's because we all take time with the fans because it means something to them, and we're so grateful. So it's pretty special to be attached to this movie, and I'm fortunate enough that I've been in 5 Superman movies.
Yeah, I
You
know.
know? So it's kind of like, you know, where's Waldo? Try and pick me out in all of the movies, you know. And up until Margot's passing, she was in the most, and now I've been in the most of them.
I love Margot Kidder, I gotta say. Um, I felt bad when she was gone. Number one, a huge Black Christmas fan, and I gotta say she was so good in that. And then of course she'd do Superman. Wouldn't it have been interesting if Lois Lane was the same character as she played in Black Christmas?
I never saw that, so I
You
can't speak to
never
that.
saw that? Yeah, she was in Black Christmas. She was quite interesting, and there was a scene in that Lynn Griffin, one of her co-stars, says she wonders if that was ad-libbed by her. Yeah. She was quite interesting in Black Christmas. She was a sorority sister, um, who
I'll
ends
have
up
to check
having
it
a
out.
little. She ends up having a little too much to drink. Oh yeah, love Margot, but yeah, you got to be part of this phenomenon, and of course, Richard Donner, rest in peace. We just lost. Um,
Hmm.
what
Such
a
an incredible
career!
man.
Yeah, what a career he's had. He did The Omen first, and then he did Superman, and then well, he's got the Donner cut for Superman 2. And he did the Lethal Weapon movies. I mean, the
Don't
guy,
forget Goonies.
Goonies, yep, and Conspiracy Theory. I mean, the guy was all over the place, in terms of, and I listened to his commentary tracks, and the guy seemed to have a really good sense of humor. What are your memories of Richard Donner?
Richard was great. I mean, there's a number of pictures where he's kind of just sitting with me, like in the capsule, like this, or doing stuff. He he never told me what to do. Like he never said, "Come out and yawn, do this, do that." He would ask me, and that's how he would get the natural performance out of me. Right? Would be like, "Okay, you come out of the capsule, you've been asleep for what would you do?" And I come out like that, like that, and stuff like that. And he just allowed that on set. And I remember he let me talk into his walkie-talkie, which was, cool. And he'd carry me around. He's just a really, really kind, nice person to me. I mean, even fast forward to, I don't know, when it was 2020, I was in LA and I walked by a video store, and it was when the release of the DVD of Superman. And it was a sign that him and Tom Mankiewicz were going to be there to sign this. And so I walk in and I say to some guy, I'm like, "Do you know when Dick Donner's going to be here?" And he's like, "Da, da, why?" And I was like, "Well, I was the kid that lifted the truck." And he looks at me and he grabs a magazine and he points, opens it up. He goes, "Is this you?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's that guy and he brought me right up to the table and he's like, "Dick, blah, blah," because he knew Dick. And that person has since been a really good friend of mine. His name is Jim Bowers and he runs capewonder.com.
I've heard
And
that name before. Yeah.
yeah, and so I sat down and I signed autographs. That was the first time I ever signed autographs. And then I booked a part in LA, and they needed, because I was Canadian, they needed, somebody that's high up in the entertainment to vouch for me. And sure enough, I called his office. I talked to his assistant, said who I was, and the assistant said 1 minute. Next thing I know, Dick's on the phone talking to me. He's like, "What do you need?" I told him. 3 days later, I had a letter from him. saying that they should hire me. So he was just on set with me. It was just wonderful, you know, incredible. He allowed all the ad libs and the naturalness that you see in that movie to come out for me.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you were Canadian either. So,
Yeah. And he's actually how I got Man of Steel too, because I reached out to him and I just said, you know, this could be the last Superman movie. I think it would be pretty cool to be in the first and the last. He said, send me your headshot and resume. I sent it to him. He shot it over to Zack Snyder and they wrote me in. That's just the type of person he was.
oh yeah. Well, he was a terrific director, and I guess you were easier to work with than Damien in The Omen.
Yeah. And that's funny because there was actually they cast 3-year-old, a 6-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a 12-year-old Superman, and they did montage, they did photos
Hmm.
of him growing up, similar to what he did in The Omen.
Hmm.
Um, because of the length, that never made it in. But if you go to capewonder.com, there's a ton of behind the scenes pictures of all of that montage stuff that never made it into the film.
I met the actor who played Damien. His name's escaping me right now, but I met him at Frightmare in the Falls last year, and it was interesting meeting him. He wasn't what I expected, He was a lot buffer. I obviously worked out, but I just remember the commentary track on The Omen where Richard Donner was talking about how what a pain in the ass it was working with this kid, but
That's funny.
kids are kids, Yeah.
Oh, yeah, kids will be kids. But yeah, no, I was easy to work with, and that's, the only difficulty he had was getting me to come out of the capsule naked. Um, but he won me over with a few things, and then the final straw was juicy fruit gum.
Really? That's all it took?
Yeah, there was like a 6-pack of Coke, and I was like, no, not yet. And he's like, well, what do you want? I was like, I want some gum. So he's like, anybody got any gum? And he pulled out spearmint gum. I was like, no, I want juicy fruit. So they got juicy fruit, and I was like, all right, here we go.
So you're telling me it would be that easy for Playgirl to get you to do a nude spread? They just forget money, just offer you
just,
juicy fruit
just,
gum.
just some juicy fruit, lifetime supply of juicy fruit gum.
There you go. Well, there
So I
you
hope
go,
they're not watching now.
Playgirl.
I'm gonna get a whole. If they're watching, I'm gonna get a whole Amazon shipment of juicy fruit gum now.
Yeah. Um, but nonetheless, and of course, Christopher Reeves gone way too soon, and he was. Anytime somebody thinks of Superman, most people think of Christopher Reeves.
Christopher, yeah,
Yeah.
Reeve, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He was the first time I met him was on Superman 3. I didn't meet him on Superman 1, so I met him on Superman 3, and I just remember shaking his hand and my hand disappearing into his. And being in awe, and really nice, really kind. And then, there's a picture online of me with my arm on his shoulder in a tent. He's got a white T-shirt on, and that was actually in set of Superman 3. That was in the lunch tent. He was sitting in the lunch tent with everybody else, extras, crew, um, and that's just who he was.
Yeah. And of course, you mentioned Margot Kidder. She was beautiful, I gotta say, Yeah. Did you what I'm assuming you met her, and I'd like to know where you was in awe of her as I was.
I was 8, so no, but I can't remember
I don't know.
meeting her.
I had crushes at 8 years old.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I
I
don't.
just didn't know anything about what crushes meant.
Man, I can't remember meeting her as a kid on set. I'm not sure if I did. I think the first memory I have of meeting her was I may have met her on the set. I just can't remember. It was at a convention.
Yeah. Hmm. And of course, you mentioned Superman 3. Now, that got really overshadowed by the fact they had Richard Pryor in that film, which was really unique casting. Did you meet Richard Pryor?
Briefly, he never. No, yeah, no, not really. He was kind of, he was busy. So
Maybe he was
unfortunately, I
trying
didn't.
Maybe he was trying to get to the Sunset Strip.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah. Um, yeah. And then, of course, Quest for Peace comes out. Quest for Peace did not do that well. That kind of
Yeah, that was kind of the jump
mantled.
to shark for
Yep.
Super.
But I have massive fond memories of the first three, but especially the first two. I remember that second one I loved that fight in the city, you know? In fact,
Right,
that
yeah.
was one of the big differences between Superman 2 and Man of Steel, because Man of Steel is often criticized for the amount of property damage that is
Right.
that is done. Whereas in Superman 2, it was kept very, very safe because it's like when the bus is thrown, Superman, catches the bus, and of course, I remember Terrence stamping the Coca-Cola sign. He had him by the arm and the leg and spins him around. I remember that shot so well. Seeing
Yeah,
that at a drive-in theater, you remember unique things like that.
I
And
bet.
yeah, um,
An interesting fact about Superman 3 was the lady that played my mom was actually my mom
now
in real life.
that meant you had to behave on set.
Well, I was the star there, so I kind of ruled the show. He had to behave on set. I'd get her fired. No, just kidding. But my dad was in that scene as well, so it was a neat family thing. And my brother was actually in Superman 3 as well, but his part got cut. So after that, he was done with the business. He's like, Superman 1, I get cut. Superman 3, I get cut. I'm done.
I kind of know how that feels because I was part of a film that was shot here in Fredericton and my scenes got cut. But my scenes didn't get cut till after I was done promoting the movie before the festival.
Oh
So
boy.
I was kind of like that. It felt like I was done dirty.
Well, no,
So,
you think you've done dirty. None of us have been done as dirty as Jeff East was. You know that story, right? He so his voice is actually Chris's voice
uh-huh.
in the movie. And when they were editing it, Chris was like, he sounds nothing like me. So Chris recorded all the voice and lip synced it and dubbed it over. And Jeff didn't find out till the premiere.
Wow, that would be
Yeah.
an uncomfortable feeling.
Yeah, so that was bit of a sore. He was like, "Man, it's not my voice," um, but yeah, that it made sense. I mean, Chris wasn't wrong, you know.
Now, of course, you like still more great casting in this movie. Marlon Brando, of
Right?
course. I know I'm going to sound like a broken record, but did you meet Marlon Brando?
No,
No. Okay.
no, those scenes were all filmed in London.
Okay. Okay. And of course, you had Gene Hackman playing Lex Luthor,
Right?
Gene had already won an Oscar by that time too, and
Yeah,
yeah. And of course you had Terrence Stamp, Jack O'Halloran, and Sarah Douglas playing these three black
villains.
clad villains, and they were wonderful. It was nice seeing Terrence Stamp in Last Night in Soho. It's nice to see he's still working.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. It's good to see that.
Yeah. Do you have any memories of any of them, or did you see them at the
No,
con?
I never met them. I met Jack and Sarah at the conventions, and they're a riot. I mean, I could sit and listen to Jack and Sarah banter back and forth all day. She's sweet, he's great, he's nice. Jack will tell you the same story every time you see him, and not realize he's told it to you 17 times. But he's Jack, so you just sit and listen, and they go, oh, great. But yeah, I didn't meet them till the conventions, but they're wonderful. On the sets, all I met really was Chris.
Hmm.
Gene Hackman's brother, Richard Hackman, was a stunt coordinator, and he was actually laying right next to me, just off camera when I was
Hmm.
lifting up the truck, just in case that one cable snapped or whatever, for safety. But he was great. And then, of course, I met Jeff East
Hmm.
and Chris, and then I met um, Henry Cavill on Man of Steel, and it was great meeting him because I got the same feeling meeting him as I got when I met Chris. It was really kind of weird, and he was just, you know, he really wanted to honor Chris, but also make it his own and not do a copycat performance. So it was really nice, and you know, and then I met Brandon Routh as well, and Tom Welling. So I was going to do a convention in Metropolis, Illinois, and I'm sitting on the plane and I look over and it's Tom Welling from Smallville, and so I look at him, I go, "You realize I was Superman before you were, right?" And he kind of looks at me like, "What the heck? What are you talking about?" And then I tell him the story, and we joked and laughed about it. But and then, you know, I met Brandon Routh as well. So it's been pretty cool that, you know, there's been times where there's been like four Superman together.
You know, I didn't have a big issue with a lot of the Superman movies. You know, I know some of them have gotten terrible reviews. Some, I know the early ones got really good reviews. My memories of them have been generally positive, you know. I can see where the criticism come with Quest for Peace, but I some people can look at it as they use the term so bad it's good, you know. But
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but um with me, my memories are especially those first two movies were so beautifully done. I have so many memories of those, and so when you go to the conventions, like I started doing the conventions in 2017 because Lisa Langlois from class of 1984 invited me to assist her after being on the show, and I'm about to do my third one with her. And I've had a blast at those. That was because I've lived here my whole life and I never really traveled until 2017, and I love Toronto, hence my background, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love Toronto, and I fell in love with the convention scene as well. So, what is the most unique thing you've ever been asked to sign?
Um, there's only one I've ever refused to sign, and that was somebody did like a screenshot of me coming out naked and like blew it up and brought it. That I refuse. I'm not going to sign that. So that was kind of like the weirdest thing. You know what? There's been, I don't know if you remember the old Burger King glasses, you know, with Superman, and I was on those. So you know, somebody brought those one time, and that was a trip to see that. It was pretty cool to see. You know, the lunch boxes have been great. The neatest and thing that's happened to me was I signed a picture at Metropolis, and I'm friends with this lady on Facebook, and she's the sweetest lady. She ended up getting a tattoo of my signature on her ankle. She has mine, Dean Kane's, and Brandon Routh's signatures on her ankle. So I didn't sign her ankle per se, but I signed her ankle, which is kind of cool. It's there permanently. Um, but yeah, so there's been some really neat, pretty cool things that people have brought in, you know, to sign. The scariest are like, you know, vintage posters that are, you know, that have like Gene Hackman and Terrence Stamp and all these, you know, and then I got to sign it, and I'm like, oh, I don't want to mess this up. You know, this is worth, you know, there's a lot of pressure on those, but you know, it's a lot of fun. And what I always do is I always talk to people first because I want to put something personal on it. Like I don't want to just do best wishes, right? You know, I'll put like, you know, their name on it, and
Hmm.
then like something that they brought up, you know, thanks for bringing the glasses or whatever it is, a little. So it's just personal. So, you know, but it's great. You know, it's an honor, and you know, I just got back from Monroe, Michigan. I did Monroe Pop Fest there, and um, you know, there's it's always a trip seeing like hockey cards of me on it, you know, to sign. But yeah, it's great. It's wonderful.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, do you follow the superhero legacy going on now? Of course, you have Batman versus Superman and Justice League, and like, do you follow where it's been going lately?
I mean, not a lot. I know, you know, what's happening now with, you know, with the newest Superman and that, and um, you know, wanting to go in a different direction. And look, frankly, you have to.
Hmm.
You know, go in a different direction and do it good, and that's great. You know, as long as you keep what the essence of Superman is about, the good quality, you know, it's got to be different.
Absolutely. Now, you mentioned earlier the Richard Donner cut. There was a big controversy there, and I felt bad for Richard Donner there, but how amazing that there's a Richard Donner cut of this film. And I know Jack O'Halloran promoted it big time, um, and of course, I'm going to butcher his last name. Richard Fleischer directed the
I don't know.
Superman 2.
Lester.
Richard Lester. Oh, boy, did I
Yeah,
screw that. Richard Lester.
he took over, and then he also did Superman 3.
Hmm. What was he like to work with as a director?
You know, I don't remember him too much, and I think that's because I think he was okay. I don't have the memories I do of Dick. You know, I was on set for one day for Superman 3, and I didn't
Hmm.
really have, you know, too much really to do. It wasn't as difficult. So I don't have a lot of memories of Richard Lester to speak about. Nothing bad, obviously,
Hmm.
you know. I think more so just like very business-like. Hey, great, okay, good, thank you, good job, type of thing.
Well, when you watch Superman 2 and then you watch the Donner's cut, most people I'd say prefer the Donner cut.
Absolutely.
I'm assuming you're in that camp,
Yeah.
When you first saw the Donner's cut, uh, what was going through your head with it?
Yeah, just what a difference, you know, what a difference, and that's why Richard Donner is the legend he is. You know, it's
Yeah.
often you don't often get to compare the same movie with two different directors,
Hmm.
and you do in this, you know, in this situation. Um, so yeah, it was, you know, it's great. Plus, that's how I can be say I've been in 5 Superman movies. If it wasn't for the Donner cut, I'd only be in 4.
Richard Donner cut. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I was looking through your credits here. Now, I remember seeing MVP, Most Valuable Primate, in the theater.
That's awesome.
Uh,
That was a fun movie to work on in Vancouver. An interesting fact about that is I did a TV show called Honey, I Shrunk the Kids with Thomas Ian Nicholas, you know, from American Pie, and
okay,
the
yep,
rookie of the
yep.
year. And in Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, there was a chimpanzee that was in it that we acted with. Cut to 3 years later, I do MVP, and it's the same chimp that skated and actually he literally had skates and played hockey. So it was neat to work with him again. His name was Bernie the chimp.
Do you know that chimpanzees, I found this out online, are listed as the most intelligent animal on the planet?
Yeah, there's like their DNA is 99 or 98% the same as ours.
Yeah, I saw that online. They were number one, dolphins were number two,
Number two.
orangutans were number three, elephants were number four, and then ravens came in at number five.
Oh wow. Wow.
Yep, yep. So that was
Yeah,
pretty interesting.
he actually escaped from his handler one day, so we were shut down for like 3 hours trying to get him back.
How did you guys coach him back?
The handler just got we everybody had to like stay away. So it was in the arena, so everybody had to leave the arena and just leave the handler in there to get him. Otherwise, he'd get distracted.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, animals hit or miss on working with them, so
animals and kids, I tell you.
well, not you. You were easy.
Not me, but that's because they had juicy fruit. Had they not had juicy fruit, who knows what would happen?
There you go. Now, I didn't see this one either, but I saw the first one in the theater. I saw Wishmaster in the theater. You were in Wishmaster 3, Beyond the Gates of Hell.
Yeah, that was fun to do. It was a fun character, but it was fun to work with Sean Connery's son, Jason Connery. He was in that, and it was fun just kind of talking to him. And I said to him, I said, "So, has anybody ever done it?" And he's like, "What?" And I was like, "Your dad's your dad's impersonation really good." He said once it happened in London. He was walking down the street. and he heard somebody like, you go, Jason, and he turned around thinking it was his dad. But he said, other than that, no. But yeah, he was a great guy. It was nice. That was fun. It was a fun movie to be on. Except it was in Winterpeg in the summer when the mosquitoes are like massive.
Well, that was part of the Wishmaster curse.
Yeah, exactly.
I was looking at the credit. AJ Cook was in that.
AJ Cook, yeah.
Yeah, wow. Okay. And of course, you know, you were a Man of Steel. Now, that was I saw that in the theater. I think I've seen all the Superman movies. With the, I don't think we saw Quest for Peace in the theaters, but it's kind of one of those things, Superman, something that I will go to in a theater because it's like something that I grew up with, and
Right, right.
yeah, so it's something I always pick up on. Um, but yeah, so what do you got going on now? Are you going to like
Well, I
eventually
just
tie
did.
tie? Huh?
What's that?
I was going to say, are you eventually going to tie this into a book?
It's not a bad idea. My experience isn't set, and the people that I mean, the people I've worked with and been blessed to know throughout my career and outside of my career, like for example, I when I was in LA, I started and ran a bar for the Tonight Show behind the scenes. So all the guests would come and I'd get them liquored up and all that. So, I got to meet like and talk with Tom Cruise. And that's how I met Brandon is I was doing that. And Jay was like, hey, Superman here. And so he brought me out onto stage when Brandon was on. And Jay's like, Brandon, you're not the only Superman out, here. And Brandon's like, what are you talking about? And so Jay brought me out. But meeting like Tom Cruise and Nicole Kidman and Brad Pitt and Jennifer Aniston. And like when Jennifer Aniston was on, at the Tonight Show, Brad Pitt came, but he let her be in the green room and he just kind of hung out and chatted with me. And we talked about the same acting teacher that we had. You know, and I'm friends, I haven't talked to him in a while, but I could go up to him at any time I see him and say hi. And, with Ryan Gosling. And I often tell people I take credit for Ryan's career. So here's a quick story. Before Ryan was Ryan, we were both, we're friends. A bunch of us all lived in LA, Canadians, and we used to play practical jokes on each other. Well, one day my roommate and I, we put a couch outside of Ryan's apartment. And it was an apartment that was like, it opened outdoors. So the
Uh-huh.
door opened out. So we put this couch in front of his door and it poured rain that night and soaked this couch. So now you have a 200-pound couch that's now 600 pounds. So he has an audition. He can't get out of his apartment because he can't move this couch. He finally gets out. He's like an hour late for the audition. He wasn't Ryan Gosling. So the producers were pissed. They didn't hire him for that. He ended up getting, because he didn't get that, he was able to do a movie called The Believer, which he won Best Actor for at the Sundance Film Festival. The Believer launched his career. He Murdered by Numbers, The Notebook. So I have to say, if it wasn't for me putting the couch in front of his door, he would have made that first audition that they wanted him for. He would have got that part, wouldn't have done The Believer. That movie never did anything. And there you go. So, but back to the book. I mean, I really should start writing stuff down because the stories I have, of all that, just the stories from the set of Superman and, all that.
You gotta share the story of the couch in front of the door. That's great. I
Yeah.
envy the fact that he's gotten to work many times with my current celebrity crush, which is Emma Stone. I have a huge Emma Stone crush,
Oh,
you
Amos
know.
Longer. And
Yeah.
Ryan was very smart earlier on in his career, which isn't normal for such a young actor. Like they offered him Terminator 3 and they offered it 3 times with bump and, pay every time. But it wasn't something he wanted to do. It wasn't the type of movie he wanted. And for somebody at that age, he was like 20 or something like that to turn that down, was something else. And I actually trained him in the gym for The Believer because Ryan was a skinny kid. And so in The Believer, he plays a Jewish Nazi, right? A skinhead. And they're like, you got to put on muscle. So every day we were in the gym for an hour and a half. He was, he bulking him up. But yeah, it's been a great career, the stuff I've worked on and the friends I've made. And both on and off sets, doing conventions, and then before that working, in Vancouver. I did a lot of my resumes, all stuff from Vancouver. Recently, I did a fan film called Superman Solar, which if you haven't seen it, check it out. It was done really, really well. And I played Lex Luthor in that. So now I can say I'm the only actor to play Superman and Lex Luthor.
There you
So I had a
go.
small, and that was just a cameo in that as Lex, but it was it was post credit, so it was an introduction into what's going to come up for part two. And then I just recently did a film called a faith-based film called Life of Purpose, with Dean Cain. I didn't have any scenes with Dean Cain, but he's part of the production company and was in it as well. And that should be coming out streaming here in the next couple of months. And I play a bad guy, a bad character in that. So I played some bad characters, which are fun to do.
Yeah, Dean and I both have the same faith. I belong to the Christian faith as well, so although it
So
was
that's so
interesting,
JC Films
yeah,
is the production company.
I found it interesting in God's Not Dead. Both him and Kevin Sorbo play
Yeah.
real jerk characters, so you get to see the bad side of Superman and Hercules.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the same. So that's the same production company.
Oh wow.
Yeah, yeah. So JC Films, how they work is they do little clubs in all different cities.
Hmm.
And so you make your own film under the JC Films banner, in San Diego and Florida and West Virginia and wherever. And so it's all local, crew that some donate their time and they work and they put these films together. That was the same with Life of Purpose. And Dean was in that, and it stars Randa Blackley and myself and Eddie McClintock.
Remember the first time you were asked to do a convention?
The first time was a Hollywood show in Burbank. It was my first convention I did, and it was such a trip. I just couldn't believe that people were lining up and paying money just for me to sign a picture. I still to this day I feel guilty. Um, you know, but it's an honor, and I really they're long days, right? You're there from like 9 till 6. You know, um, and talking to hundreds of people, right? But I really enjoy it. I would do one almost every weekend if I could.
They are a lot of fun. I've done a few of them, and I've assisted Lisa at two. I'm about to do a third one with her next one month. So, and I handle her stuff at the table.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun to do. Do you have a favorite con that you've done?
You know, Metropolis, the Superman celebration. I've
Hmm.
done that twice, and it's phenomenal. I mean, it's a smaller one. It's just Superman based, with some others, but it's phenomenal. The people are incredible. Motor City Comic Con has been
Hmm.
great. I've done that twice as well. That was wonderful. But I think those two are my favorite ones that I've done.
Yeah, because they've got a few of them here in Canada. So I think that they because I
Yeah,
know
and
the
I've never done one up there. We're actually talking about looking into doing a reunion tour into Canada, into Europe, with
well
all of us, me, Jack, Sarah, maybe Mark McClure.
well
So,
here's the funny thing because I'm about to do Frightmare in the Falls, and the people that do that con, they also do the Comic Cons in Canada, like in Toronto and whatnot, Niagara Falls and various other cons. So it's not just horror based. And I'm like, I should throw your name at them because um, James Ponce is one of the guys that operates that. Forget the name of the other fella, but good guys and
that's great.
because yeah, and get you because after all, if you're Canadian, you should be doing a few up here.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can even pitch it to them that you can get Jack and Sarah as well. maybe even Jeff. Jeff would maybe a little trickier because he's over in France, um, but yeah, if they've never been, I'd love to.
Terrence
I'd love
doesn't do
to.
them.
No, no, he doesn't do them. Gene Hackman doesn't do them. Gene just recently did a mail-in signing,
Okay.
um, and Terrence did the same thing. But yeah, I think that just the age, it's just like, we kind of want to. It's a lot of work and stuff, but yeah,
Okay.
they're good. So,
Yeah.
but
But you say that Jack O'Halloran tells the same story. He wasn't telling any stories in those Superman movies. He's
no, he
made
wasn't.
he's making up for that now.
He's making up for that now. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Oh, does he ever?
Oh yeah, he was wonderful.
Yeah.
I've been trying to get Sarah Douglas on here too, but maybe eventually, Um, she was awesome in that movie. So glad that she's still with us. She's also in Conan the Destroyer, and
Yeah, she's great.
yeah.
And she's the sweetest. She's wonderful. She's
You
fantastic.
mean sh you mean she's not evil?
She's not evil. Not evil. Not evil at all. So,
I was gonna
but
ask,
yeah.
do you have any charities or a website that you would like to plug and promote on here?
Leukemia and Lymphoma Society is near and dear to my heart.
Hmm.
That, and then March of Dimes as well. I have a 13-year-old daughter, but she was born 3.5 months early, prematurely. So she was 1 pound 7 ounces when she was born, and we ended up doing a web series called Love Comes Early: Addison's Story, where we did 8 episodes, filming the journey of her 1 pound 7 ounces to coming home. And we ended up, I think, through the DVDs and clicks on YouTube, donating $20,000 to March of Dimes. So those two are my thing, lymphoma, and then March of Dimes for kids and stuff.
How is she doing now?
She's great. She's 13. She's a competitive cheerleader. Nobody would ever know. Yeah.
Is she
Yeah.
going to be Supergirl?
She's gonna be Supergirl. She thinks she's Supergirl. Well, it's funny, right? My son doesn't care about Superman. He's like, Dad, why do people still care? I'm like, that's not, well, it's whatever. But my daughter's like, she'll go to school and be like, my dad's Superman, and kids are like, oh yeah, sure, so is mine. And she's like, no, my dad is Superman. So it's funny. And then I got to run here, but at the convention, sometimes you get people that'll walk by and they'll see like my picture and pictures of me lifting the truck, and they kind of like they do a double take because they can't put two and two together that I'm that person. And they look at my pictures and they look at me and I'm like, yeah, that's me. They're like, no, really? You were the kid that lifted the truck? I was like, yeah. They're like, oh my God, that was the best scene ever. So
Well, a special shout out to Baywaters, my friend Bronwyn, for hooking us up. I thought that was amazing,
yes,
and you got to check out her music, when you get the chance. I'm sure she'll direct you towards that, she'd love to.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
she
she
got
has a
an
book out too, right?
Yep,
So
I was just going to mention that. Yep, she plugged that on the show as well. She hasn't changed at all. She's always been all class, and yeah, and for anybody listening, anybody that hears this, just to bring him some juicy fruit.
there you go. My next date.
Yep.
She
And
shows
if
up with
you're
juicy
if
fruit.
and if you're Playgirl magazine,
There you go. Let's talk.
they won't they,
I've got the arms for it.
no people bring me juicy fruit to keep my clothes on.
On.
Aaron, I
All
thank
right.
you so much for coming on here. Like, this was just when I found out that I was going to be interviewing you, it just blew my mind. I was like, really,
Well, thank
and
you. I appreciate it, and thanks for having me on. And best of luck with everything, and stay in touch.
yes, absolutely. Well, you mind if I throw you a friend's ad on Facebook?
Please do.
I'll do that. I've got Bay on there, so absolutely, and I got Jack O'Halloran on there too. But nonetheless, before I let you go, would you mind doing a plug for my show?
Sure.
Yes, just state your name and that you were Superman in that original movie, and say you're listening to Greg Gilbert on Python's Paradise.
Hey everybody, Aaron Smolinski here, aka Baby Clark Kent from the original Superman movie, Lifted the Truck, and Superman 2, Superman 3, Man of Steel. And you're listening to Python's podcast, right?
Absolutely, Python's Paradise, but I'll take that.
I'll do it again. Let me do it again.
Go ahead.
Hey everybody, Aaron Smolinski here, aka Baby Clark Kent, Baby Superman from Superman 1. Yeah, the kid that lifted the truck that was naked, that's me, absolutely. And Superman 2, 3, and Man of Steel. And you're listening to Greg and Python's Paradise.
Absolutely. Folks, bring him all your juicy fruit. He wants all the juicy fruit. You have a particular favorite flavor? We might as well establish that.
Just the original.
Well, you know what? I appreciate you coming on here. Thank you so much, and keep that sense of humor. And I'll bring your name up to James Ponce, because they do a lot of the cons up here. So
Absolutely.
I think that would be great. Absolutely.
All right. Perfect.
All right.
Take care. Thank you. Bye, guys.
God bless.